In this animation, we will talk about how to measure in cases of extreme rainfall. But before we get started, remember, do not put yourself in harm's way to get a measurement. Extreme rainfall can be coupled with high winds, lightning, hail, tornadoes, flash flooding, flying debris, and more. So remember, safety always first. As you probably know already, when you receive more than an inch of rain, your inner measuring cylinder overflows to your outer cylinder. To measure, simply remove the inner cylinder, record the amount inside, empty its contents, refill from the outer cylinder, and repeat until you are done. Then it's just a matter of adding up all of the numbers to get your total measurement. In order not to spill your measurement, keep in mind that you do not need to pour the contents into the inner tube too quickly. This is where the most common error occurs. Instead, stop before it gets to the top, record your amount, and repeat the steps again. Your scratch paper may look something like this. Add them all up and you have your 24-hour total. While all of that seems pretty simple, actually doing it can get a little messy. So here's a few tips and tricks that can help you along the way. First, you may find that the inner cylinder holds slightly more than 1 inch, where there are no markings to measure. If that is the case, simply pour a small amount back into the outer cylinder so you can get an accurate measurement. After you have written down the amount from your inner cylinder, instead of just discarding the water, why not put it into a separate container? That way, if you make a mistake along the way, you can remeasure. You may even decide to do your pouring over a separate container, like a cake pan. That way you can collect any water that you might spill so you can still measure it. Let's say you are measuring several inches before you have had your morning cup of coffee. It may be a good idea to estimate the total in your gauge before you measure. Well, there is a way to do this, but it is not meant as a replacement for obtaining an accurate measurement. Look at the level of water in the outer measuring cylinder in relationship to the inner cylinder. Every 1/10 of an inch equals about 1 inch of water. It's actually closer to 9/10 of an inch, because the inner tube ends up displacing some of the water and raising the level. But we're estimating here, which is no replacement for an accurate measurement. So if the level comes to the 0.3 inch mark of the inner cylinder, you can estimate 3 inches in the outer cylinder and add the 1 inch that is inside the inner cylinder to get a total of around 4 inches. Again, this is only to be used as an initial estimate, so that in case you spill your measurement, or lose count of how many times you have poured, it can be a good double check on yourself. You can also use this estimate as a check of your measurement. They should be close to each other. There are rare instances when you will receive more rain in a 24-hour period than your gauge can hold, which is just over 11 inches. Here are some ways you can prevent your gauge from overflowing. If you already have a few inches in the gauge by evening, and more heavy rain is predicted overnight, go ahead and do an evening measurement, write down the amount, empty the gauge, and set it back outside. Just remember to include that rainfall with your full report the next morning. If you are around and you see your rain gauge getting close to overflowing, it may be a good idea to go ahead and take a measurement, write it down so you can add it to your daily total later, and put the rain gauge back to keep collecting. This is where 2 rain gauges can be quite helpful. If it is still raining while you are measuring, you can swap out the rain gauges so you don't miss any precipitation in your final measurement. Of course, many of us aren't made of rain gauges, so there are other tactics we can use. If you can, wait until there is a lull in the rain to take your measurement. You can also quickly dump the contents of your gauge into another receptacle to measure later. If you choose to do that, remember to keep the receptacle covered to prevent evaporation, and to still measure it with the inner measuring cylinder. If you are expecting extreme rainfall, it may be a good idea to remove the funnel and inner measuring cylinder beforehand, as the funnel can cause heavy rain to splash back up, reducing your measurement. This can be further exacerbated when encountering hail. Just remember that leaving the funnel off during hot, dry weather can expose your measurement to evaporative losses. Again, extreme rainfall can bring dangerous situations, so only measure if you can do it safely. That being said, if you feel that the storm you are experiencing is heavier than normal, it will help the National Weather Service if you submitted a real-time storm report. To do this, select the storm events and choose from the list of options to fill out and submit your report. Remember, these real-time storm reports are supplementary and do not take the place of your daily observation. Be sure to include that amount with your daily total when you submit your data at your normal observation time. And please, if you've experienced a very large rainfall total, Be sure to add comments to your report describing when the heavy rains fell, any damage or flooding that occurred, and any other things that would help describe the storm. If you have a question about measuring extreme rainfall, know that we are just an email away and we will do our very best to help.